You know, sometimes life teaches you that the hardest doors to open aren't the ones locked by keys, they're the ones shut by pride. My name's Helen, I'm 72, a retired school teacher, and a widow of 15 years. I raised my only son, Daniel, with everything I had. After his father passed, it was just the two of us against the world. I worked double shifts, skipped meals so he could eat, and stayed up late helping him with homework even when my eyes could barely stay open. And I'll never forget the day he graduated from college, the way he hugged me and whispered, "Mom, I couldn't have done it without you." That moment made every struggle worth it. But years later, when he married a woman named Grace, everything changed. At first, I was thrilled for him. She seemed polite, respectful, even warm. She'd call me Mom, bring me tea when I visited, and thank me for raising such a good man. I thought, finally, my son has found someone who'll love him as deeply as I did. But I was wrong. Slowly, Grace began to distance Daniel from me. First, it was little things. "We're too busy to come over this weekend," or, "Mom, we'll call you later." Then came the bigger excuses. "We can't make Christmas this year," or "We're traveling for Thanksgiving." Months passed between visits. And when I called, it was always, "Sorry, Mom. Grace isn't feeling well," or "We're just swamped." I tried to be understanding. Newlyweds need their space, I told myself. But deep down, I missed my son, missed his voice, his laughter, his presence in my home. So, one Sunday afternoon, after nearly 4 months of not seeing him, I decided to surprise them. I baked Daniel's favorite pie, apple and cinnamon, just the way he loved it growing up, and took the bus across town to their new house. I remember standing at their doorstep, holding that warm pie, my heart fluttering with excitement like a child on Christmas morning. I knocked once. No answer. I knocked again, a little louder. Then the door opened, and there she was, Grace. Her smile vanished the second she saw me. "Helen?" she said coldly. "What are you doing here?" I smiled gently and said, "I was in the neighborhood, dear. I thought I'd drop by and bring Daniel his favorite pie." She glanced behind her nervously, then stepped halfway outside, closing the door behind her. "Now's not really a good time," she said, her voice tight. "Daniel's busy," I frowned, confused. "Busy?" "It's Sunday." She sighed and said, "Yes, but we didn't expect visitors." I tried to hand her the pie. "I won't stay long, dear. I just wanted to see my son." She didn't even reach for it. "Helen, I told you, now's not a good time." I looked over her shoulder and saw Daniel sitting on the couch. Our eyes met for half a second. "Danny," I called softly. He started to get up, but before he could take 2 steps, Grace slammed the door shut right in my face. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen, pie trembling in my hands, my heart sinking like a stone. I heard muffled voices inside, Grace's sharp tone and Daniel's quieter one, but I couldn't make out the words. I turned and walked down the porch slowly, my eyes blurring with tears. By the time I reached the bus stop, the pie felt heavy, not because of its weight, but because of the memory it carried. I went home, sat at my kitchen table, and stared at the empty chair where Daniel used to sit for hours, telling me about his dreams. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying the sound of that door slamming. The next morning, Daniel called. "Mom," he said awkwardly, "Grace told me you came by yesterday." I swallowed hard and said, "I just wanted to see you, honey." There was a pause. "You can't just show up unannounced," he said. His tone wasn't harsh, but it wasn't warm either. "Grace likes to have things planned." I felt my throat tighten. "I understand," I said softly. "I'll make sure to call next time." After we hung up, I sat there in silence, realizing something. My son wasn't the same boy I raised. Grace had built a wall between us, and he was standing on her side of it. Weeks turned into months, and I didn't hear from him. My birthday came and went, no call, no visit. I told myself he must be busy, but my heart knew the truth. Then one rainy afternoon, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Carter. She said, "Helen, dear, I just saw your son downtown." "Daniel?" I said, surprised. "What was he doing?" She hesitated. "He was with a little boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old." My heart skipped. "That can't be," I whispered. They don't have children. Well, she said gently, it looked like he did. My hands started trembling. Could it be true? Had they hidden the child from me? The next day I gathered my courage and called Daniel. He didn't pick up, so I wrote him a letter, the old-fashioned way, telling him that no matter what, I loved him and that if he ever had something to tell me, I'd be here. A week later, I heard a knock at my door. I opened it, and there he was, my son, standing in the rain, holding a small boy's hand. "Mom," he said softly, his voice breaking. "This is Michael, your grandson." My breath caught. I knelt down and looked at that little face. He had Daniel's eyes, my late husband's smile. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered, tears spilling down my cheeks. Daniel sighed. Grace didn't want anyone around the baby at first. She said she needed time, but Mom, I couldn't keep it from you anymore. He stepped inside, and for the first time in years, my house felt alive again. I made tea, pulled out old photo albums, and little Michael sat on my lap, giggling as I showed him pictures of his dad as a boy. Later that evening, Daniel looked at me with guilt in his eyes. "Mom, I'm sorry for everything. Grace, she's been controlling, and I let it happen. I didn't want to upset her, but shutting you out was wrong." I reached across the table and took his hand. "Daniel, I raised you to know right from wrong. You don't need to apologize for loving your wife, but never let anyone make you forget where you came from." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I know, Mom, I see that now." A few days later, Grace showed up at my house, uninvited, but this time I opened the door. She stood there awkwardly, holding a small bouquet of flowers. "Helen," she said quietly, "I wanted to apologize. I was wrong. I thought you'd interfere or judge me, but I was just insecure." I looked at her carefully, this proud, defensive woman who had once slammed a door in my face, and I saw something different now. Not arrogance, but shame. I took the flowers and said, "You hurt me deeply, Grace, but I'll forgive you, for Daniel's sake and for that little boy's." She nodded, tears welling up. "Thank you," she whispered. Since then, things have been different. They visit every Sunday. Little Michael runs through my garden, and Grace actually helps me bake. She even asked for my pie recipe. One day, as we sat on the porch drinking tea, Grace said softly, "I didn't realize how much Daniel missed you until I saw the way Michael lights up around you. You're the heart of this family, Helen." I smiled and said, "I never stopped being part of it." Sometimes doors close, dear, not because they're locked, but because someone forgets how much warmth is waiting on the other side. You know, that day I knocked on my son's door and had it slammed in my face. It felt like the end. But it wasn't. It was just the beginning of a lesson in patience, forgiveness, and love. Because no matter how many times life shuts a door on you, if your heart stays open someday, that same door might open again, not with anger, but with understanding. And when it does, all the pain will finally make sense.